Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Becca. Today we are going to be reviewing all the books I read for the month of February, and it is quite a few. The vibration here is my downstairs neighbor playing their music as loud as they possibly can. So this month I think I read 6 or 7 books. I have a lot of downtime at the current job I am working at, and I just constantly read. So one of the first books I read is called The Chain. I did pick this up at Walgreens. I'll kind of read what the back says. It says, your phone rings, a stranger has kidnapped your child. The stranger explains that their child has also been kidnapped by a completely different stranger. The only way to get your child back is to kidnap another child. You are now part of the chain. So that's pretty much what the whole book is about. It's pretty much a psychological thriller, and then one of the people in the chain decided to take down the chain, and it's about them trying to take down the chain. It's a good book. It was not my favorite. I love psychological thrillers, but this was not one of my favorite psychological thrillers. I would give it like maybe a 3 out of 5 books. Not my favorite, but it's a good read. I'll try to put all the books I bought down in the description below. Most of my books I do buy off Amazon, but I get this one at Walgreens. So the next one that I just finished reading was called The Perfect Marriage, and this is by Geneva Rose. This was a very good book. It says, would you defend your husband if he was accused of killing his mistress? Sarah Morgan is a successful and powerful defense attorney in Washington, D.C. at 33 years old. She is named partner at her firm, and life is going exactly how she planned. The same cannot be said for her husband, Adam. He's a struggling writer who has had low success in his career. He begins to tire of his and Sarah's relationship as she's constantly working. Out in the secluded woods at Adam and Sarah's second home, Adam engaged in a passionate affair with Kelly Summers. Then one morning, everything changes. Adam is arrested for Kelly's murder. She has been found stabbed to death in Adam and Sarah's second home. Sarah soon finds herself playing the defender for her own husband, a man accused of murdering his mistress, but is Adam guilty of his innocence? So this was a very good book, and so it is told by the perspective of Adam and Sarah, and it exchanges between the two every chapter. And in the beginning, you actually really like both of the characters, and you feel bad for Sarah, and you like come to hate Adam. And by the end of the book, you hate both of them. I hated both of them. And it does have a twist to it, and you kind of figure out at the end, towards the end, like actually who killed her. It was actually a little surprising, but I'm not surprised, honestly. But very interesting ending. Highly recommend this. I finished this in like a day or 2. It was a very good book, very fast read, very easy read. If you're looking for something like that, I highly recommend this book. I gave this like a 5 out of 5. Next book probably was my most favorite book that I read all month long, and this is Verity by Colleen Hoover. Very good book. It reads, Loanne Ashley is a struggling writer on the brink of financial ruin when she accepts the job offer of a lifetime. Jeremy Crawford, husband of a best-selling author Verity Crawford, has hired Loanne to complete the remaining books in a successful series. His injured wife is unable to finish. Loanne arrives at the Crawford home, ready to sort through years of Verity's notes and outlines, hoping to find enough material to get her started. What Loanne doesn't expect to uncover in the chaotic office is an unfinished autobiography Verity never intended for anyone to read. Page after page of bone-chilling omissions, including Verity's recollection of the night their family was forever altered. Loanne decides to keep the manuscript hidden from Jeremy, knowing its contents could devastate the already grieving father. But as Loanne's feelings for Jeremy begin to intensify, she recognizes all the ways she could benefit if he were to read his wife's words. After all, no matter how devoted Jeremy is to his injured wife, a truth this horrifying would make it impossible for him to continue to love her. A standalone romantic thriller from the #1 New York Times bestselling author. This was an amazing book. I read this in one day. It was an intense psychological thriller. It has some dark stuff in it, so if you do not like anything dark, anything about death, anything like that, I would not recommend this. Anything about suicide, do not recommend, but it's an amazing psychological thriller. I read this in one day in a couple hours. I give this 5 out of 5. It is my favorite book that I've read all month, probably one of my favorite books I've ever read, and I want to read it again because it has so many twists and turns that I did not expect, that I want to go through them again and see if I can realize it before the book is ended. And there's an ending. At the very end, you gotta find out what's the real truth, and it's up to the reader, and the author does not give any telltale sign of what the real truth is, and I found it very, very interesting, and I love this book. Probably one of my top 10 most favorite books of all time. Highly recommend. Next one is called Rebecca, same name as me. One of the other books I read, recommend this book. I'll tell you about my opinion about this in a minute. With these words, the reader is ushered in an isolated Greystone mansion on the one-step Cornish coast as the second Mrs. Maxim de Winter recalls the chilling events that transpired as she began her new life as the young bride of a husband she barely knew. For in every corner of every room were phantoms of a time dead, but not forgotten, a past devoutly preserved by the sinister housekeeper, Mrs. Danvers, a suit immaculate and untouched, clothing laid out and ready to be worn, but any of that great house current occupants. When eerie precedent of evil tightening her heart, the second Mr. Winter walked in the shadow of her mysterious predecessor, determined to uncover the darkest secrets and shattering truths about Maxim's first wife, the late, hauntingly beautiful Rebecca. The special edition Rebecca. So this book is pretty much a romantic novel, and it does have like some concepts of psychological thriller, but honestly, I didn't think any of them were that exciting. Most of them you could guess. I didn't really enjoy this book that much. I also watched the movie after I read the book. Did not like the movie either. It's an okay book. It just doesn't have the suspense that I like in a psychological thriller, and it really didn't keep me engaged. And there's like more romance to it than like psychological thriller. It does like uncover the death of the first wife, Rebecca, but I didn't find it really that interesting or engaging. Not really my cup of tea. I would give it maybe a 1. But if you're into romance novels with a little bit of suspense, perfect for you, but not really my book. The next one is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. It says, an exclusive wedding on a remote Irish island. The bride, the +1, the best man, the wedding planner, the bridesmaid, all have a secret, all have a motive, only one is a murderer. So this book is told by many different perspectives, 5 different perspectives of the people that I just listed on the back, and you learn throughout the whole book the person that gets murdered, why each one of these people could possibly murder this person, and you do learn who murders the person at the end, and it's kind of surprising of why. And it was a good book. Maybe I'll give it 3 out of 5. Not my favorite, but I did enjoy reading it, and I liked reading everyone's different perspective and what everyone went through with the person that was murdered and why they wanted to murder him potentially. It's a good book. It's a quick read, maybe like a day or so, and it didn't take me too long to read this one either. Enjoyed it. I would recommend it if you like psychological thrillers. It was I think it was a New York Times bestseller. Most of these books I do read are. I do recommend this book if you like psychological thrillers. Next one, probably my second most favorite book, and this author he's only written 2 books, but he's amazing. It's called The Maidens, and this is his newest book. His first book was The Silent Patient, which is like one of also my favorite books. He's amazing, psychological thriller. Highly recommend him. It says Edward Fosca is a murderer. Of this, Marina is certain, but Fosca is untouchable, a handsome and charismatic Greek tragedy professor at Cambridge University. Fosca is adored by staff and students alike, particularly by the members of a secret society of female students known as the Maidens. Mariana Andrews is a brilliant but troubled group therapist who becomes fixated on the Maidens when one member, a friend of Mariana's, niece Zoe, is found murdered in Cambridge. Mariana, who was once herself a student at the university, quickly suspects that behind the idyllic beauty of the spires and turrets and beneath the ancient tradition lies something sinister. She becomes convinced that despite his alibi, Edward Fosca is guilty of the murder. But why would the professor target one of his students, and why does he keep returning to the rites of the maiden in her journey to the underworld? When another body is found, Mariana's obsession with proving Fosca's guilt spirals out of control, threatening to destroy her credibility as their closest relationships, but Mariana is determined to stop this killer, even if it costs her everything, including her own life. So he puts a lot of twists and a lot of turns in his books, and he has you guessing until the end, until he reveals until the actual killer is. You think you have it figured out, and then he just keeps on doing different twists and turns. He's an amazing author. I recommend reading The Silent Patient first. It is his first book that he wrote, and then reading The Maidens. Some of the characters that he mentions in The Silent Patient briefly shows up in here, but it's not really important to read The Silent Patient first. But I highly recommend this book. I give it a 5 out of 5. It is one of my favorite books. I'll probably read this again along with The Silent Patient, and I hope he writes more books because he's probably one of my favorite authors I have known yet. So my last and final book I read this month, the way I showed you is not the way I read them. It is The Judge's List, also another psychological thriller. It is very good. So it says, in The Whistler, Lacey Stoltz investigated a corrupt judge who was taking millions in bribes from a crime syndicate. She put the criminals away, but only after being attacked and nearly killed. 3 years later, and approaching 40, she's tired of her work for the Florida Board of Judicial Conduct and ready for a change. Then she meets a mysterious woman who's so frightened she uses a number of aliases. Jerry Crosby's father was murdered 20 years earlier in a case that remains unsolved and has grown stone cold, but Jerry has a suspect whom she can become obsessed with and has stalked for 2 decades. Along the way, she discovered other victims. Suspicions are easy enough, but obtaining proof seems impossible. The man is brilliant, patient, always one step ahead of law enforcement. He's the most cunning of all serial killers. He knows forensics, police procedure, and most important, he knows the law. He's a judge in Florida under Lacey's jurisdiction. He has a list with the names of his victims and targets all unsuspecting people unlucky enough to have crossed his path and wronged him in some way. How can Lacey pursue him without becoming the next name on his list? So, from the description, it is about a judge who they suspect has murdered multiple people. He's like a serial killer. And the book is told by like 3 different perspectives. You do learn perspective from the judge himself, from the attorney, and then from Jerry. So you get told all 3 of them, and it does have a lot of suspense in it, and it keeps you interesting on your toes. And it's a very good ending. Not quite what you expect, but it was good. And I did love this book. It didn't take me long to read this one either. It doesn't take me long to read many of my books. That's why I've gone through so many this month. I highly recommend this one too. I will link all these books that I've read in the description below if you want to interested in buying them. Amazon is most places I buy them. I've bought a couple of these other places, but Amazon's my favorite place to buy books. It's usually, I can find them pretty cheap on Amazon too. So let me know what books you've read this month, what type of books you like to read, if you've read any of these, and what you think of them, if you like them at all. And that is it for today. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button if you like Disney content, books, anything like that. And everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you.